Good evening, Lee.
Good evening. How you doing?
I'm doing good. What about you?
Terrific.
Cool. So, Happy New Year, huh? Because the holiday season is just passed.
Happy New Year to you too.
Yeah, cool. So, we're here again for a little Q&A.
The first of 2018.
Yeah, the first of 2018. So first, what happened the last 2-3 months with this silence about what you were doing?
Okay, so I'm assuming you're referring to the silence in the end of the fall and early winter.
Yep.
So, I mean, the short answer is we thought we were going to have a big announcement. So we thought what we were doing was deliberating whether or not we were going to announce the big update, and we were kind of trying to draw the line as to what would go into that update or not. So we were holding off on giving updates for a while. Then eventually what we had decided was it's worth everybody's time to wait. So we started stacking up, the new list of things we wanted for this update. And when we looked at that final list, we kind of said, oh, all right, this is basically a new game, hence the 2.0 moniker.
Okay. So it took time to...
Not really an excuse, but this has happened to us before where we kind of think we have, we're about to announce something, so we hold off on communications, and then sometimes we do announce it, sometimes we don't. So 6 weeks of silence doesn't mean we've stopped working on the game.
Okay. So we have seen the trailer, like a lot of people, but please, can you tell us more? So what would be actually the architecture of 2.0?
The architecture. So I think an easy way to put it is 2.0 is the game that we wished we had when we entered early access like a year ago. Mm-hmm. So if you can just imagine what you wish you had, when we came, I think it'll fulfill a lot of the same things. When it comes to specifics, I think it's all on our public-facing Trello board. We've got a lot of stuff that's not on there that we're not going to announce in advance. But this is going to be a meaty update for sure.
Okay. So what are the big part of the 2.0 you can talk about? For example, the map editor. We know the map editor will be there. What can you tell us about it?
I've seen a few comments on this on the map editor, specifically people saying, you cannot release 2.0 without having this map editor. There's a reason we put it on the list, and it's because we think it's super important as part of this update. Actually, it's not completely done yet, but we did actually the bulk. What is it? It's January 10th. We did the bulk of the map editor work in last August and September. Got it very close to finished, and when I say map editor, that's both the editor, it's the ability for the game to handle custom maps, it's the Steam Workshop integration, all that stuff is hooked up. So we think that's an important piece of maintaining momentum, which is why we wanted to hold it until we had another major content update. Partially just because all the stuff that's in the editor we've been working on over the last several months as well. So this next 2.0 update is going to be where we say, all right, this is the bulk of our content. We're all sticking that in the editor. We're going to give you some examples to show you how we do what we do and show you what's possible with this stuff. So it will be there. I can confirm that.
So we will be able to create maps, to cook them, and I've seen as well that the bots are coming in. It will probably help as well.
Yes, I think actually the bots have a lot of uses outside. I think what traditionally people think of bots like, oh, I'm just playing by myself. They're useful for practicing on your own in a just in a low risk environment. They're also really helpful to help balance maps early on. I mean, we've actually been able to use the bots to test exploits, like when we've seen bots escape the maps. But they're not like the perfect tool for it, but especially when you're working by yourself and you're trying to get traction for your custom map, it's really helpful to be able to test it with other bots. Also, use bots as you're trying to get people to download it and distribute it. So
yeah, I know a lot of people are going to be happy with that. Okay, so you were discussing about the fact that some point of the 2.0 is directly linked to the community comments, for example, the map editor. But what are the parts?
This is tough because there's a lot in this. So, I mean, a lot of the stuff in the 2.0 update, I feel like is stuff we've been talking about for a long time, like, pre-early access, like even pre-Kickstarter. So in some ways, it does seem like we're just kind of doing the stuff we said we were going to set out to do and maybe delivering on it a little late. But the priority of certain things and really the scope of the entire game, but the scope of specific features, that's like constantly getting dialed up and down. And a big thing, like even just in the last couple months, is as we're going along and making the game and learning the ins and outs of the engine, new opportunities pop up for us. So, if we learn something and we see an opportunity to improve the game, we'll pounce on that usually. So I will say that I feel like we've been closed off to like community suggestions over the last 6 months or so, largely because we just had such a long list of stuff we needed to have. But once we do hit that 2.0 update, we want to open up the floodgates again. So, I mean, we're aware of all the wants that are out there, but this update specifically is more about the needs for us.
What about ADS?
ADS.
Because that's a lot of question on the forums about ADS.
Yeah. So, I mean, ADS is on right now in our internal build. We're really happy with it. Up until the point where we moved it up, where we took it out of the game, we are really not happy with that system we had. And that, there were several versions of it from early testing through early access. And I think we might have made it worse over time. But the thing was, we were experimenting with trying to find a way to keep it, but also keep the rest of the gameplay the way we wanted it. And we couldn't, and we essentially kind of gave up. We said, like, with the current model, there's no way for us to figure this out. And that's one of those things where, as we were going along, we said, all right, well, now we've seen some new ways we think we can approach the recoil. We tested a few out. We actually tested like 3 different systems out until we found one where we said, all right, this actually works. So we've got no plans to remove it. We are very curious to get the community feedback on it because we know it's a contentious issue. We think it's more popular to have it in than not, but we also want to make sure our game is not playing like Call of Duty where you have to be ADS to hit somebody.
Okay, that's clear enough. Okay, that's a question I'm pretty sure you won't answer directly, but when can we expect the 2.0?
The short answer would be when we have 6 finished maps.
Okay.
So that's 6 new official maps, as promised in the last post, and we're talking polished maps, so we're not rushing these out the door. I think probably only a handful of people even saw our last map that we even tested, which was Amalfi. And I think the people who did show up to those tests saw that it was clearly our best work to date. At least it was back then. When we held that test, we said, all right, like this is now the new floor for quality for all our maps, and that's how we approached the next 3 we've made and the ones we're continuing to make. And we've actually gone even beyond that. So. I mean, the maps and the content is that's always been our bottleneck. It's something we think is very important, and it's something that we're investing a ton into to make sure, we're not only churning out a quantity of content, but also a high quality of content. So that's kind of been the driving force behind this update is like, what is the minimum amount of content we need to draw people back? On the feature side, there are things that we say are required. That's always a little bit up in the air because we have so many, we're juggling so many balls at once, and there are a lot of features that we hope we can sneak in on time. But it's largely driven by when the content's ready.
A time scale, a month, 2 months, 3 months. What do you think?
Like I said, we have 4 of the 6 maps completed right now. We've got a couple. We've got 3 that are in various states of completion. And we may start a brand new one as well.
Okay.
So probably, let's see. I don't want to give a date, but I think I said back in December in the Discord, we were going to be doing like a code review of our new features at the end of this month.
Yeah.
We're still going to be doing that, but I wouldn't expect the maps to be ready for a couple months.
Okay, well, that's an indication. I presume you talked about it just previously, but I presume there will be surprises. You won't tell me.
Got all sorts of surprises.
Yeah, all sorts of surprises. A lot of people on the forums were talking about, all the Steam features.
Like the social features?
Yeah.
Yep.
Where about are you on that? Because I know there's some actually existing or on work, but what are the plans about that?
Yeah, I think we have the basic ones now. Like you can join a game from the Steam client if your friend's in a server.
Yep.
We would like to do like more traditional like grouping up, so you can join together. I don't know that these Steam features are definitely square in the bucket of things we want to sneak into the 2.0, but they're not prerequisites to releasing it.
So Lee, talking about little things on the forums, I've seen a lot of questions about the special skins. People who backed the project on Kickstarter will have. Do we have any information about that?
Yeah, so first I'll say that the reason we haven't prioritized that is we don't think the skins and the cosmetic things are valuable if the rest of the game is not up to shape. So the order of business number one is get the game in a good spot. That we think that if the game's in a good spot, that increases the value of those rewards. The second thing I'll say is we have made design decisions in the last 3 years at this point that will probably affect some of those rewards a little bit. So they might not be exactly what we said they were in the beginning. But our number one priority is to take care of the people who backed us in Kickstarter. Like they're the only reason we exist as a studio today. So whatever we do, we're going to make sure the right people get something, and we're going to try to over deliver on that if we can. So even more so than what we might have outlined in the original campaign. And that stuff's post 2.0. Actually, some of it might show up in 2.0.
Ooh, we have something.
You always ask me about if I have anything like to announce or surprise you with.
Yeah.
And I jotted some stuff down this time.
Oh my god.
Like I will say, we got a lot of stuff in this next update that, like I said, is not it's not on our Trello roadmap. We haven't even talked about it for the reason that we do want to have some surprises. So
sure.
In that regard, I'm not going to give like too many details here today, even though I'd love to, because you guys are awesome and have done great work in supporting us. I'll just say the overall goal of the 2.0 update is to surprise people with what we've been able to do in a year of development, and we want people to feel surprised at how much better it is versus our first weekend in early access. That we've put a lot of love into this game, and we want that to show. But one surprise we had recently, actually, I'm going to keep looking at my calendar. This was last month in the post that we put up, our 2017 recap. We had given some nods to the fact that we were testing these new methods in constructing our maps that would have increase both the performance, the visual fidelity, and the visibility. 3 things that are extremely important to us, and 3 areas which we were not happy with when we launched into early access. And we were like even wary about talking about it because it was still kind of to be determined at that point. We had our fingers crossed. The good news is it looks like we finally nailed it, and we've been testing on a range of hardware, both low and high, and actually we've had the most advancement on the low side, meaning the game looks a ton better than it did before at extreme low settings, and also runs a lot better. So I will confirm that the game is going to feel different, regardless of of your opinion on it. It's going to play like a different game, especially if you're on lower end hardware. So that was cool. A surprise. That was a Christmas present for us at the end of 2017.
Well, that's going to be one for us as well.
Yeah, you'll be able to see it soon. It does mean we've had to go back and retrofit all our old maps. So we're spending some time doing that now, but it's definitely worth it.
So your method of work is quite peculiar because you already said that in previous videos, but you're working with a kind of very tight team on 2 or 3 different continents.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't realize what amount of work it is, or what amount of organization you have to provide to do a game. What is kind of a crazy day in your life? I mean, in the studio life. Can you just give us few hints?
Well, I just got a message from one of our artists in Australia. He's just waking up now. It's 5:30 p.m. where I am. I think we've got full 24/7 global coverage right now. We've got Australia, a couple people in Europe, and then me and George in New York. So just on that alone, there's always kind of some, because we don't have a physical office and because we're spread all over the place, they're like just staying like as a cohesive unit takes a little bit of work just to make sure everybody's on the same page. The really nice part is when we want to go heads down and work, which is a lot of the work that we do, we're set up really well to do that. There's no distractions, no one coming over to your desk and asking you inane questions. So as the de facto producer, a lot of what I'm doing is just making sure that people are working on the right things, people are prioritizing the right things. As we get work back, making sure it's going in the right direction, providing feedback in real time, connecting people on the team who may not know on their own that they need to talk to each other. Just kind of playing as a guardian from up above. And that's what I do. But on the programming side, it's a lot of locking yourself in a hole for 2 days to 2 weeks, doing these development sprints, and the art side as well. Up until last month, I'd say there was a lot of learning going on. We were like, every new map we made, we were basically, I said we devote 2 weeks to R&D, where we try to do new things, be it on the art side or the performance side, and kind of see what the results were. And I'd say up until it was really this last map we made where I said, all right, we figured it out. Like we don't need any more R&D. We've got our methods. Like we know this works. We know it's going to work well. So just kind of organizing that whole, like the process of experimenting and learning from it. That's been a big arm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So basically, you're a tight team because you want to be sure of what you're doing exactly, but as a result, you're multitasking and you're on like 24/7, really.
Yeah, so the team as a whole is on 24/7. I won't claim that we're working 24/7 anymore. We did that for a year, and there was a recovery period after that. We don't believe that like in the myth of crunching all the time that produces better work. We've found that when pressure's off, like when the pressure of a deadline's off, that's when you have creative ideas. That's when you try things that may or may not work out, that usually end up being the type of things that blossom into the really cool stuff.
Are you because actually you're working on the games, that's for sure. Are you planning other stuff? Do you have other ideas? Do you have vision for the future?
Oh, we're not short on vision for the future. It's kind of tough, and it was even tougher about a year ago when we realized how much work we had just to get to what I'd call like table stakes, for an online FPS. Just the amount of features and polish we needed before we could even really say like we make online, first-person shooters.
Yeah. And
we're getting a lot closer. Like our Trello boards, our internal ones, used to be just scarily overwhelming. Now we can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel, so that alone is extremely motivating. But when, I think in the update I said that we have at least another year of development that we want to put into Days of War, before we consider it, final, and that's a very arbitrary term. But those are things that like we just want to take the time to do and do right. And we actually think a game like Days of War is a great proving ground for us to set that foundation. So once that's done, there's a ton of things that we want to do and a lot of directions we think we can go. But all of them require that we have a solid foundation for our game, and then also just our entire technology platform.
No, fair enough. So a trial question now: will we see the return of monthly updates, or will it be a kind of when ready release?
You talking about the Steam posts, the news posts?
Yeah, I mean all the
or actual game updates.
Yeah, game updates.
Yeah, so I mean I can't actually say for certain what the pace of the game updates will be. We discussed in the past, we think just keeping more frequent cadence, like every week or 2 weeks, is probably good for us, with probably bigger content updates, on a monthly or bi-monthly schedule. Just one thing internally for us, it's good to not go too long without pushing an update, because if you do, then when you do and there's a bug, it's a lot harder to track it down. So it's just good hygiene. But after the 2.0 update, like I said, we're going to be opening up the floodgates in terms of asking for player feedback. We're going to, I'd say, resume what we consider early access, which is much more interaction back and forth between us and our players, more transparency in what we're doing, and that kind of stuff.
Lee, I know you are a very busy studio and producer and everything, but the community probably want a bit more of your videos, be more Q&A. Are you open to the possibility that I start to organize a Q&A, but a strict one, for maybe in a month or in a month and a half, something, to be able to talk to different part of the community, different countries, and different, different people?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to talking to people. My only concern is that I won't have enough to feed you in terms of new information. I'd have to give some thought to when the best time would be for that, and that might it might take a little while for that to become clear. But I think tentatively we should absolutely try to begin scheduling that now.
Yeah,
something I'm definitely open.
Let's say after the 2.0, there will be a lot more feedback. Yep. And the possibility for everyone to ask the questions. So thanks for that. I take note. I will do that. To finish, is there any particular message from the studio, from yourself to the players?
Well, we've put a lot of work into this next update. By the time we release it, it'll be at least a year. So I'd just say if you backed us in Kickstarter, or if you supported us in early access, regardless of what you think of us at this point in time, I think it's worth your while to at least check it out. It's not going to be the end of the game. We're still going to be in early access. We're still going to be shaping the game. There's still opportunity to influence it and figure out where we go in the future. But all I'd ask is give it a try when it comes out. I think what we've aimed to do is surprise people. So
great. Well, thanks very much for that. Speak to you soon.